Busch Williamsburg is a beautiful theme park that has a multitude of themed areas like England, Italy, and France. But they also have 9 different roller coasters, so today I will be looking at the best and worst element on each one. Keep in mind this video is just my opinion, and I haven't ridden some of these in a while, so don't take this video to heart. Let's start with the most miniature coaster in this park, Grover's Alpine Express. Grover is fairly standard and compact for a kid's ride, but it does have a small pop of airtime on the first drop, which is the best element. It curves to the left on the pullout and goes into a mild yet fun helix, which could be lumped in with the first drop. It's hard to pick the worst element on a kiddie coaster, but I will have to go with the S-Hill over the pathways, as it is a slow point in the ride, and there is no airtime or forces whatsoever. But again, it is a kiddie coaster, so that should kind of be expected. Loch Ness Monster is a historical aero looping coaster with iconic interlocking loops, but for the best element on this coaster, I will have to pick the first drop. For starters, the visuals of diving through the forest and down by the river are very cool, but the main reason I like it is that the minimalistic over-the-shoulder restraints allow for plentiful airtime in the back car, and because of the long 7-car trains, you are sure to get whip on it. As for the worst element, the triple helix in the dark is a cool surprise for unsuspecting parkgoers, but the helix does not pull much force, and there are no special effects anymore in the tunnel, making it a plain helix in the dark with nothing to it. Tempesto is an intense triple launch coaster made by Premier Rides, and it has multiple good elements. The ones I'm talking about are the drop on the top of the ride into the non-inverting loop, which gives a good dose of airtime, but the comfort colors ruin it, so my pick for the best element is the Heartline roll. It has some stellar hang time, and unlike the drop, the comfort collars do not ruin the moment. The worst element on Tempesto is a pretty easy pick. The first launch on this ride isn't forceful at all, and even though it brings you from a standstill to having momentum, there isn't a lot of punch either on it. It's just to get the train up to speed for the rest of the swing launch portion. InvadR is a family-style GCI wooden coaster, and it delivers solid airtime throughout the ride, and even some laterals, but the best moment on this 2017 coaster is the double up. In the front row, you get 2 solid moments of floater airtime, and even in the back, you get quicker but still good flowjector airtime. Also, on the exit of it into the turn, you get some solid laterals throughout the train. There is no real worst moment on the coaster because it keeps a solid momentum throughout the ride, and there isn't anything I would consider bad. With all that being said, I think the dullest moment is something I just talked about, the second turnaround after the double up. It gives good laterals, but not as much as some of the other moments, and it doesn't contain any airtime or special forces. Verbolten is a great themed family thrill coaster with multiple standout elements, specifically the drop over the Rhine River and the helix inside the show building, which gives a grade on almost every ride. But my pick for the best one is the drop track. The moments leading up to it is an ominous show scene with 3 different themes: wolves, thunderstorm, or possessed. It's always fun to bet on which one it will be, but the drop itself is very powerful, as you get a good stomach drop on it, and you go directly into a punchy launch after. The worst moment is out in the light, with the right-hand turn and airtime hill after the drop. At this point in this ride, there is a strong rattle, and the airtime hill doesn't give off much airtime. The best part of this moment is the camera on the airtime hill where it takes your picture, but you aren't that excited at the moment, so your pictures can turn out pretty awkward. We are now into the heavy hitters at Busch Gardens, starting with Griffon, a B&M dive coaster that is 205 feet tall. This coaster is often considered a one-trick pony, but I think that is more than the drop. However, the drop is the best element on this ride. Hanging over 200 feet in the air, looking down on the people on the pathways that look like specks of dust is a cool feeling. And up there, you feel like you are on top of the world. Also, the Coca-Cola advertisement is pure gold. Enough said about the views. The drop gives off great airtime in the back row, and being on an edge seat makes it even better. The pullout gives good forces, and the bridge gives a great head chopper. Griffon doesn't have a standout bad element, but if I had to pick, the moments after the splashdown would be the worst elements, as it is a plain turn into a small bunny hop which doesn't give much airtime. The best part of the bunny hill is that the splashdown sends water onto some of the ride supports, and you go right under them and can feel some of the dripping water. It's a good refresher on a hot day. Apollo's Chariot was the original B&M Hyper, being built in 1999. Most people would say the drop is the best moment on this ride, due to the speed you get off the pre-drop, but I don't think the airtime is nearly as strong as Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America, which has the same pre-drop. For this coaster, I think the drop off the mid-course is the best, as it gives a surprise pop of flowjector airtime in most rows, and it's fun to dive by the river. The mid-course also doesn't hit hard unless it's a hot day, so you can always manage to get some good airtime. For the worst element on Apollo's Chariot, I think the helix turnaround is very weak, not delivering any forces whatsoever, and it always crawls at the top of it. The visuals of being by the river are cool, but it lacks the forces or speed of the other Hyper's turnarounds. Alpengeist is an intense B&M inverted coaster situated in a valley, which leads to some cool moments, including the best on the ride for me, the first drop. It's a 270-degree swooping turn which has a wicked angle of descent, so you get whipped in the back row, not to mention the coolness of diving into the ravine in the front row. Many people complain about the shakiness of the cobra roll and turn into the mid-course, but I don't find it bad at all, as long as you keep your head forward on these moments and brace for it. The worst element on this ride is the final turn, which is taken at an extremely slow pace, and the snow theming below you is pretty pathetic, but at least Busch Gardens tried somewhat to theme a coaster. Pantheon! The best coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg is Pantheon, an intimate multi-launch coaster with many amazing elements, which include the backward spike, top hat, and drop, and the stall, but the best one is a small airtime hill. Yes, a small airtime hill on the swing launch section. This hill is quite weak the first time you traverse it, but when going backwards, it delivers a very strong pop of ejector airtime. Combine that with not knowing where it is due to going backwards, and it's an insane element. It also gives a good punch on the final traversal over it, but it isn't the insanity of going backwards. The worst element is not bad, but it doesn't pop as much as others. My original pick for the worst element when I originally wrote this was the Outer Bank turn, as it was very slow and gave little airtime, but that was before the ride even opened to the public, and it's warmed up a lot since. My new pick is the Outer Banked airtime hills before the swing launch portion. The point of these hills is just to get the train into position for the swing launch segment, but it would have been better if they were just standard bunny hops, as the outer banks ruin the potential airtime on this. Anyways, that just wraps up this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe, and comment down below your picks for the best and worst moments on these coasters. This is Zero G Coasters signing out. Have a great day, and see you on the next train.